All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll open with prayer. How's that? All right. Well, Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for all that you're doing in and through us and this group. We just welcome you, Holy Spirit, to lead our conversation, lead our discussion, our thoughts, and let our hearts be in the right place to do everything for your glory, Lord, and according to your will. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So, here's a handout here. I'm going to pass these back. You guys can get one too if you want. Pretty basic. All right. So, I just want to share a little bit about the vision for the group. Basically, it's kind of been coming up. It's been something that I felt really interested in since about the beginning of the year. So I'm somewhat new to this, but I did go to school I got a finance concentration with my business admin, which I haven't used up until this point, but I've just been getting into it. And for the YouTube channel, I should probably say I'm not a financial planner advisor, and this is not financial advice. So we're going to, as you guys all know. But anyway, yeah, I guess more and more it feels like people are being led to get involved in stocks and different, there's cryptocurrency, all kinds of things. I've heard people have dreams or the Lord's just been highlighting it to them. So I thought it'd be fun to get together and have a prophetic group where we just open our hearts and our attention to the Lord in any way he'd like to speak to us about potential opportunities, whether stocks or if the market's going up, market's going down, any way he would want to lead us. And also just praying into the mountain of business as a whole. There is a lot of corruption, market manipulation by the big wigs that has been kind of under the radar and is coming to the surface more and more, just like every other sector where things are coming to the surface. So pray into that as well as specific stocks or strategies God has for us. And also just working together and really, the Lord can speak in any way. Even just highlighting an idea, if you see like a certain industry opportunity, and then I think we'll make like a group like WhatsApp discussion where people can post their dreams or if somebody has something on their heart, I'm feeling this, and we could pray into it and, I'm bearing witness or do a little research or whatever. Just kind of bounce things off each other so we're not going at it alone. I think would be really an awesome thing. And also one thing that's been brought up in my heart is just trusting the Lord through all of this, of like feeling led in a direction and not getting caught up in greed or fear. And those things can kind of come to the surface when you're investing, and it's an opportunity to let the Lord refine your heart more and make sure your motive's in a good place. And I think being in a group can help us with that as well. And then the other thing is just the trend of a lot more people going to personal investments versus like a money manager. There's platforms and apps that make it really easy for people that haven't been involved before to get involved with, either low commission or commission-free trading. And also like Robinhood, I have a few different platforms on there. Coinbase is probably the best for cryptocurrency, which Brad's going to talk a little bit more about cryptocurrency. There's just a lot more access to financial information and training and all that kind of stuff. I'm involved in a few different Facebook and Reddit groups that discuss financials, and I've learned a lot through that as well. So, also if it's something that you're new to, they do have like paper trading accounts where you can practice, see what would happen. I think it would be kind of a fun thing if people are interested to kind of do a group thing together. And if you want to jump right into it with what we're getting from the Lord, dreams or whatever, by all means. But if you want to just kind of test it out a bit, you can do it on a paper account. There's Webull has a pretty good one, as well as TD Ameritrade. And personally, I think user friendliness Robinhood's probably my favorite for a platform. It's really straightforward. Especially more old school, or a little bit more technical, and not as direct in what they're, they'll have their code, whatever words that are a little less straightforward. And Robinhood's pretty good about being pretty understandable. Yeah. So that's my favorite. And also, it's cool. You can buy fractional shares. So, say you want to buy a stock of Tesla, which is like $750. You don't have to have $750 to buy into the company. You can buy $10 worth, and it'll go up the same percentage. So, yeah, I think we'll have Brad share a little bit about cryptocurrency. That's been more of his wheelhouse. Take it away.
So, if you don't know what cryptocurrency is, I actually didn't do a lot of research in it until I started playing with Dogecoin, and then I did more research. I kind of learned in infancy a little bit of what it was about. I was like, that's cool, and I never really looked at it. And then, 20 years later, or 15 years later, when it got really huge, then I was like, oh, okay, I should find out what this is more. And instead of just understanding the basics, which is it's like a digital currency, and let's see. To give a good example, the way digital currencies make more currency is there's it's called mining, and there's different kind of miners that will basically do calculations where in a transaction, and different ones do it differently. So like what I'm saying isn't, I'm trying to be as broad as I can to define most cryptos, but different ones work differently. So they use the computing power of different computers that are mining to do the transactions, and also to what they call find coins. So what it'll do is they'll find fractions of a coin when they're doing a transaction, and those will be the fees. And the fees will actually be generated, and part of the fee will go to the person who made the crypto, and the other fee will go to the people who are doing the transaction. So if you grab a computer and you mine crypto on it, you're actually processing transactions. That's how you get money, is you process it, and then it gives you a little bit of a fee. And it's by doing a mathematical equation to do the transaction. And then what it does is there's this thing called the blockchain, and when the blockchain adds another block to it, the crypto gets more, basically each coin gets more complex. So to mine each one. So that's why, okay, so you know how the government's printing a lot of money right now, more than usual? That causes inflation because they're printing more than they already do, which already is inflation. With crypto, normally most of them are built in reverse, where the more you mine, the harder it is to mine each coin, so it actually automatically deflates as it gets more popular. So that's one of the reasons why crypto is insanely high, and they also half the mining rewards every so often, like every 6 months or a year, and that also drives the price up because then it's instantly half. It's cutting the new currency coming in half. So that's some of how it works. It's kind of complicated, and different ones do it differently. But the one I got into was it 3 months ago, something like that. I started playing with Dogecoin on Robinhood. I randomly decided, oh, this is fun. I'll get some shares when it was before it was at 2 cents. It was right before 2 cents, and it went up to 4 cents. So it doubled in overnight one day, and then I sold immediately, and then it went up to 8 cents. And so I was like, oh. And yeah, so that same day, but then it went down again. Anyway, so I've been playing with it off and on, and doing a little bit of study and stuff. And when Matt and Brady and I talked probably a little more than 2 weeks ago after a Firehouse night, it was after Firehouse here, we talked about doing an investment group. I think we were talking about it a little bit before that, but it was we were seriously talking about it, and you were bringing up a dream you had about GME a couple weeks or months ago. That night, I had a dream that Dogecoin hit 7.2, and the funny thing is I didn't know if it was cents, I didn't know if it was 72 cents, I didn't know if it was $7.2. And but I was really confident that it was going to go to 7.2 cents. So I put in some the next morning, and let it sit there for like a week and a half. And then this last Sunday, it hit like 7.9 cents, and I had an auto sell at 7.2 cents. But then it didn't really drop. It started to drop a little bit, and then it kept going up. So now it's at like 13 cents or 22 cents, 26 cents. So, anyways, basically, it was really good because, yeah. Like basically, the funny thing was it was like I made some money. I had a purpose for it because I'm going to be working on new projects and they require some new hardware. But the thing is, I didn't ask enough questions, so it was more of a learning experience than anything. And it was almost like, even though I was trusting in what God showed me in a dream, I still kind of I don't know if I'd call it a poverty mentality or what, because basically I was thinking that it was going to perform how it normally did, because the normal patterns of Dogecoin in the last couple months last month has been, goes up to about 8 cents, goes down to 4, and like it just kind of does that. And so I wasn't thinking it would stay anywhere. So I had all these preconceived ideas I brought into this one little dream. And so that's something that I think moving forward for myself and maybe for other people too is, it's like I needed to ask more questions, and I also needed to not just assume things, because that really impacts how you invest and how you think about investments and all that. So I mean, I guess that's pretty much like most of it is just a lot of preconceived ideas that were making me just assume things and not ask questions. And so I think for me, like keeping it relational and also just asking more questions, I think that's going to make the investing more natural, and it's not just going to be like this, like, you know, like getting a telegram and then being like, oh, I'll do this. Rather, it's like a constant connection and actually treating it like that, which I wasn't. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have right now, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
The value of this, what is the value? There's nothing there, right? It's all paper, right?
Oh, it's not even paper, actually.
Well, whatever. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so so you know how the dollar's not backed by anything other than like American industry and all that, and it's well, maybe the dollar's a bad example because it's the like standard
Gold,
currency,
supposedly.
right? But I mean, it's a fiat currency where it's not actually backed by the Federal Reserve anymore, or it's not backed by gold anymore. It's anyways, yeah,
Right.
it's fiat. So it's basically fiat currency, but it's all digital, with a lot of extra things to give it security and also give it predictability, I guess, because when you have it all based on a mathematical equation that builds blocks and then kind of shows you like, okay, once you have this much currency, it's going to take longer to make more currency, so it's going to deflate. And it's almost all its value is almost all based off of usage and popularity, and it's like they're kind of one and the same, and sometimes they're different. Like Dogecoin, not very useful, extremely not yet, but it's extremely popular because it's based off a meme, and I mean that's actually like half of the reason that I got into it. It was, oh, this is really cheap, yeah, yeah. So okay, so memes are usually images with, they're either just an image that is implying something. It's like probably started more like an inside joke, but it's like images with text under it, and it's usually like the text is let's see, I'm trying to think of a good one that is okay. Well, the Dogecoin meme is a picture of a Shiba Inu. I think that's the breed. It's this kind of weird looking fluffy dog, and it was based off this like good dog meme, and it was dog spelled wrong. And it was basically like the thoughts of the dog, where it was like, you know, oh, like much toy, love play, like all these kind of like, you know, love cookie. So oh yeah. So memes, it really became a culture in the last 10, 15 years, and there is a lot of things now where there's words that are based off memes that are in Urban Dictionary that probably soon will be in all of the other dictionaries. So it's good to it's good to get into memes to even know the culture.
You've guaranteed you've seen and even shared them. Guaranteed.
Yeah, probably.
Little faces and the different things. No.
Not emojis, no.
Yeah. Yeah, not super important. But I mean, but oh no, you're good. You're good.
The producer says move on.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, it's oh yeah, go ahead.
So, are you into mining? One second. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, okay, I have a I don't really have mixed feelings about mining. I kind of do actually. So there's two forms of mining. So there's probably more than that, but the hardware used, one's called ASIC mining, which uses a very specific computer that has, like, you can't use it as a normal computer at home. It's like its own thing.
Processors.
Yeah, it's a real weird kind of thing that is developed. And then the other one is called it's GPU mining, which is graphic card mining. And graphic card mining is only popular because cryptocurrencies like Ethereum have done this thing called coding in ASIC resistance, which means you have to use video cards to mine because any other form of mining doesn't work as well. So that's actually why like the video card market is insanely overpriced right now, and it's hard to find any, is because when you're mining, you're actually getting a portion of the currency. And the currency is valued so high that you're making, let's see, like one of the most popular video cards right now, you can make $5 a day mining, and that's after the electricity it costs. So big companies have gotten these huge like warehouses full of video cards where they're making, you know, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're spending a lot upfront for the video cards, but it's just a very weird phenomenon. Like we're kind of we're not really sure because it's only been around for about 5 years, the GPU mining, and maybe a little longer. So I'm not really sure where it's going to go. But it's kind of weird. But I have dabbled in it just to know how it works and to see if I could, like, you know, pay for the electricity bill and stuff like that.
Yeah. I talked to a gentleman that was doing it, you know, up at Club Northwest, and he was making about $30 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And he heated his house.
Yeah, that's actually.
And so he didn't have to pay for the heat, electricity for the heat for his house.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That was the other thing.
Yeah, so and that's actually my plan for my garage in next winter is I'm gonna build a miner rather than a heater. Yeah.
So you said when you initially did what was the one you invested in?
Dogecoin.
And it went up to 7.2 or 7.9 or what it was?
So yeah, it went up to what it was in the dream, which was 7.2 cents, but then it kept going up.
Uh-huh.
So, and I was expecting it to crash because,
This is actually not the normal investing. You said you had a specific thing in mind. Did you get enough to do what you had in mind, the project?
Yeah, I guess I said it like I already had enough for it, but there was certain extra things I wanted to get that
that's actually what I
didn't
wanted
wanna-
because, you know, we were talking at the very beginning. I think the first thing mentioned was greed. And we want to stay in the vein that God has us in. And it's so easy to get off into, I'm going to make money.
Right.
And, you know,
And
it just is.
That's a good point. I was going to like talk about this another time, but I think it's important that for like my goals for getting prophetic investing advice is to work on projects by like paying more people sooner to do different tasks for projects and like things I want to make. But if it's like finding the why kind of thing, where if you don't know why you want to get rich, you should find out why. For me, it's to do more projects and that kind of thing. But if I didn't have those projects, like, why would I want to be rich? Yeah. Or why would I want to get money? Yeah.
Yeah, along those lines, I was thinking about that the other day, And something I feel like the Lord put on my heart was, I'm sure you've all seen Shark Tank, but have funds to invest in Christian entrepreneurs' ideas, kingdom business plans, where, that's hugely needed. People have these ideas, but the funding is like, and really just be spirit led on what I or we invest in as far as that goes. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, I first bought a little. That's really how I got started. I got my Robinhood account, and when you sign up, you get a free stock, and and then I saw Dogecoin. I think when I first got it, I think the cheapest I got it was 0.0014. So it was like a sixth of a cent. So yeah, and then I played around with that for a couple years, and then by this last December, I was like, I think I was in for $9 and got it up to $30, and then just because I was kind of playing around with it, and I decided, it costs about an extra $50 for my tax prepper to do the taxes on this, and I'm not gonna make it worthwhile. I'll let it go. And right after I sold it all, it just started skyrocketing. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get back in there. So, yeah. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, and that's another thing about the cryptocurrency that is attractive to people, that it's not controlled by like the Federal Reserve, where they can manipulate it, print money, and it can eventually inflation can get out of control. And there's all these thoughts about where the U.S. dollar is going, and we're believing for the best.
Not really thoughts.
Well, yeah,
Because if that $2 trillion deal goes into effect, cryptocurrency will go up.
yeah,
I mean, substantial.
yeah, because we're believing for the best. But if God leads us into getting Bitcoin, or whatever cryptocurrency God puts on your heart, the thing about that is that it's not attached directly. Well, in some ways, if you're holding dollar bills and the value of each dollar bill goes down, that it gets diluted, and then versus that, you put it into something like Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency where has like a limited supply, how it gets harder and harder. Similar with real estate. That's part of why real estate's going up, because it's like a solid asset, and the value of the dollar is kind of,
I forgot to mention
yeah.
one last thing about crypto is you have a code. Well, there's a code, and I think it's a code and a password for your the main one.
Your wallet, Coinbase wallet.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of people that have lost their code where it just sits there forever. So that's actually another reason why it deflates, is because people literally lose their currency, and so it's just not in the market, and so that drives up
It's not trading.
drives
or
deflation
moving.
up. That sounds weird, but yeah.
Drives the value up. So, and yeah, and I don't know if I said at the beginning of this, I want to encourage any questions and more of a discussion than a formal one-way
But
conversation.
we're also putting this on our YouTube, so if you ask a question, please do it on the microphone. Thank you.
So I didn't know where people were at as far as their understanding or experience with the stock market and how stocks work. So I thought we'd just start fairly basic tonight and explain a little bit more just about what stocks are. And so I have a little video we'll play here in a second, but basically a stock is a share or a piece of equity in a company. When a company wants to raise capital, they can do private funding where it's not sold on the stock exchange, or they can do a public offering where they release shares to the public. Say they want to have 1 million shares to release to the public, and basically a little accounting, like assets minus liabilities equals owner's equity. So they have a pool of what that fund should be, and they're not going to give away all their control or all their equity, but they'll come out with 1 million shares or whatever. And there's a few different formulas how people equate what the price should be. And once, we'll get into more of that later. And then once a company has their initial public offering, the market kind of determines, because the value of a company can kind of be left to interpretation. The market kind of decides what they think it's worth, and there's experts that really study all the data, the financials, and come up with a pretty good idea. And basically, it's worth what someone's willing to pay for a share. Supply and demand for the stock shares is what really dictates what the value people are putting on the company is. And so when it goes on the stock market, like let's take Apple for instance, they're going to give it a ticker, which is basically like a abbreviation. Like for Apple, it's AAPL. So that's one thing. If maybe you have a dream or a vision and you see like 4 letters, 3 letters, whatever, it could equate to a company if you don't know. Okay. And then there's 11 different main sectors that they classify stocks in. I have them written down there on your sheet: energy, materials, industrials. And the idea, I guess, typical idea of a portfolio is that you diversify some, and you can really look at what your investment goals are, if you're long-term, or if you're trying to make income, like as a job, or or just kind of like with this group, whatever the Lord's putting on our hearts to maybe, like I might just start with $100 and see what people are getting, and start plugging it into that kind of thing. But having a diversified portfolio, certain sectors do better in different economic conditions, like tech stocks. When interest rates go up, they can go down because the price of them, the cost of business for them to have debt goes up, so they can be less profitable. So different things like that can affect. Certain industries do a little better when the overall market's down, and so that's kind of the idea, where you have a mixed bag of different stocks that'll kind of balance each other out and hopefully trend up, and then not too bad when it dips too. So, and there's some more advanced strategies as well we'll probably talk about eventually. If God's giving us, things are going down, you can kind of hedge your bets or go all in on a downturn as well, where you can make money when the market goes down. So I found a pretty decent, pretty basic video. I think it's about 12 minutes long, just to kind of give an idea of stocks and how their value is determined. All right, see you guys. All right, so hopefully that was insightful. Is there any questions about that? So yeah, basically that's a little bit of a intro to stock pricing. There are a lot of factors, like you were saying, and I think intrinsic value is kind of a foundation, but we're seeing more and more it really, a big part of it is public perception of a company or an expected outcome. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about the GameStop or AMC. There's been a short squeeze, like January it started, where people notice that, and hedge funds have been doing this for a while, they'll overly short a company that usually isn't in great shape, but they can over accentuate a bad situation to make them go bankrupt. Might be inevitable, but they can make it happen sooner. So retail investors banded together to start buying and jacking up the price of a company. GameStop was the first main one. And so, the company wasn't doing real great, and now the market cap has gone way up because it's really more of a principle of fighting the hedge funds that are trying to make the price go down. So the fundamentals of the intrinsic value of GameStop is probably way lower than what the actual, I think it's 160 right now, but it went all the way up to, it started around, was it $4 or $5? It went all the way up to 480, and then it came back down to 40, and went back up to 340. And this is over a couple months. But yeah, the first spike was within a week or so, week or two. And so right now, the value of 160 per share is probably more like $20, maybe 20 to 40. They have been doing stuff to kind of ramp up their outlook, their management, their plans, and yeah.
So what did the hedge funds do on that? Did they dump it?
Well,
Of it to drop the price?
it's
I mean, they flooded the market with stock to drop the price on it, and then the retailers came in and bought it while it was down and messed with them.
well, they were shorting it basically, so they make money. The hedge funds make money as it goes down, and that puts downward pressure on it. But I mean, if the volume of buyers didn't go up, it would just. And somebody, if it's not a great company, people aren't just going to run out there and start buying it unless there's a principle behind it. Yeah. And so the volume of bought shares started going up, and that's really what dictates the stock price is supply and demand. So just a note about that. And so strategies, obviously, you want to buy low, sell high, which seems pretty apparent, but more often than not, especially newbie retail investors, they'll see a stock price soaring up, and then they'll try to get in on it. And sometimes you can, like when I first got into it, it was GameStop, and it went from, I'd been watching it around $30-something, and then it went up. Hello. Okay. It went up to like 100 and then back down to 80. I bought around like $80-90, and then it dropped, and I was like, and so I sold off, and then it shot back up, and I was like, wow, dang. And so I ended up breaking even. I made a little bit of money and then broke even because I was new to it all. And so, and then it went all the way up to 480 and then back down. And I bought some more at like 300, and then it started plummeting down. And so a lot of people were on that bandwagon of buying it when it was high because they thought it would keep going. And there was some interference with some of the brokerages put a freeze on your ability to buy it. So, yeah.
That was not a realistic thing to get in on if you're a newbie.
No.
That's crazy.
And it wasn't like I was playing with a bunch of money, but it was just trying it out. I think $100 or something like that. So anyway, I kind of learned that the first thing, and it's the thing about getting educated will really help. And I guess this group's focus is more, what the Lord's leading us in, but I think it helps to kind of have a foundation of how these things work. So anyway, a lot of times people see, a stock price plummet, and they'll freak out and they'll sell. But that's really the time. If it's a good company and you expect it to go up because they do fluctuate, that's the time to buy. It's counterintuitive, and psychologically, you kind of have to have a stomach. You could buy and it could keep going down because you didn't buy right at the bottom. But if it's a good company, you've done research, or or you feel like the Lord's told you to hang on. We've seen a lot where they'll come back. And that's the thing. There's overbought versus oversold, and that's an indicator. There's a technical analysis people have, their software, that'll tell when a stock, I don't know if you noticed in that video, it kind of had a trajectory of intrinsic value going up, but the actual price goes up and down, above and below that main line, that trend line. So there's times where it goes below the intrinsic value, which means it's oversold. And so that would be a good time. And depending on what you're trying to do, day traders look at this and they'll buy and sell in a day or a few days. Yeah.
The G&E,
Mm-hmm.
is that GameStop?
Yeah.
You had word from the Lord on it.
After that, I had a dream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That changes things.
Yeah. Well, in the dream, I saw it plummeting, but it was at 800, and now it's at 150. So I'm believing it'll go back up. I'm still hanging on to some. but we'll see what'll happen. It wasn't super clear in the dream, so, and that's something that would be good for this group of like just sharing if you get something, and people can, give their input on the interpretation or what God's saying through it. So yeah, if there is something that you're invested in, and you feel, oh, do you have a question?
Yeah. What is your overall vision for this group? I mean, are we all going to be doing our independent thing, or
As
are we
far as
gonna use it-
investing?
Yeah.
Well, I had thought about a group fund, but I think for tax purposes that could be a little tricky. So, my idea is that we could kind of do it together, and you can choose. Like if you want to get your own, Robinhood or something, we could help you set that up. And then, like the strike team, kind of similarly throughout. I think we'll do it every other week. I think we'll probably do it this week, next week, just for a foundation, and then we'll start meeting every other week. But we'll have our group chat where we can, if we have a dream, we can share it, or if we're getting something, you say, hey, what do you guys feel about this? And then, people are, oh yeah, I'm really feeling strong about this. And then people can choose if they want to jump in on their own. And like I shared also, that there's paper trading, which is kind of, for fun to practice. If you just kind of want to see where things are going, and that's one thing I've been growing in, is trying to discern what the Lord's directing me in, what's fear, what's greed, is this really God? Is this me? Because I felt over the weeks, I felt God highlighting things that don't make sense to my mind. Like earlier today, Brad was talking about the Doge, and I'd felt earlier today like, oh, maybe I should buy some. And it felt kind of like a leading, but it just went up 140%. So I was like, oh, that's usually not the time to jump on. Sure enough, it went up another 40%. Today, even more than that. Yeah. So I was starting to discern the difference between them, but yeah.
So back to the GME and the dream, and Brad was saying he felt that the important thing was to ask questions and have no preconceived ideas. How do we ask questions? You're talking about as a group, asking people who
Asking
are
the Lord,
prophetic.
but also, yeah. Yeah.
And for prayer. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what the group thing's going to be, the prophetic thing. But you got this, and it was today. So you're going to call someone and say, pray with me?
Yeah, that probably would have been a good thing to do. Because I get a lot of.
You know what? If we're going to do it practically,
Yeah.
we need to.
Yeah. So we'll have a
I've
group
never
chat
ever
and
done
say,
it just because I'm afraid of it.
I'm feeling an inkling. And that's one of the things like I'd like to break the barrier of people that have never invested in the stock market,
I
and it's
studied it, but-
complicated or the platforms of understanding that. So that's something if people are interested in getting involved with, we can do it together. If you have questions.
It's a God thing, though.
Yeah.
At this point, because you've been directed to do it. It's a God thing.
Yeah.
So.
So, yeah, well, I'm talking about whoever wants to be involved and to what degree. And really, like he was talking about technical analysis, we could eventually, depending on where the group wants to go, we could dive into some of this stuff. And when you really look at it, it's not all that complicated,
So we're going to do technical analysis so that when we see God do a miracle, we can say, "Oh, that shouldn't have happened."
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I think there can be a number of different ways that God speaks through it. Like we could get something highlighted, and then we could do some research on it, and maybe, like he was saying, we don't always have to come up with a scientific. Okay, this makes sense. We can just jump on it because that's what. And that's the thing too about the market. It doesn't always make sense.
In prophetic, there are certain words that were given. I mean, Kim Clement actually gave a word of something. Fire something or whatever. I can't remember what it was. But to watch for it, it's some kind of energy.
Huh.
It's some kind of energy. And so prophetically, I think maybe it's a good thing to write some of these things down, and when we
Absolutely.
see them, so that it's not just one person that's praying about them.
Absolutely.
When they see it, because things change on a dime,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we have no, I mean, we might think that we do until we lose it all. I mean, I, I did a future on the euro, right?
Uh-huh.
And I lost $6,000 overnight
Yeah.
because I had a bad trader. I lost 6,000, and you know, his boss happened to call me, and he says, if you want to put an extra $250, it'll ride that out an extra 2 weeks. And I said, well, I already lost 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
So called me a week and a half later and says, hey, it's up to 6,000. Do you know, do you
Wow.
want to put some more in to go that way? And it was the other guy, the lower guy. And I said, are you kidding? I said, it's not even going that way. I says, I can tell it's going the other way. I mean, I felt it. It was a gut feeling. I knew
Uh-huh.
it was. And I said, if I put my money in, I'll put it the other way. And he tried to talk me in the other way. And I said, forget it. Now, if I'd have done it the other way and done with my gut feeling, which I didn't want to do with that man, I would have made like $30,000 or $40,000 on it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But instead, I did take it and I put it back in the
Held on it.
bank.
Uh-huh.
You know, but that's, you got to hear the Lord.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to hear the Lord. you
Absolutely.
know.
And
Sometimes
hear him.
He forgives us and blesses us like he did me.
Yeah. And hear him, you know, on how much he wants you to invest in and what's a good amount for you. And of course, our goal and our heart is to hear from the Lord, and he could bring you through stuff like that to make the trust journey all the more, you know, if you know, you hear it, okay, I'm going to extend it kind of thing. And the more we can discern, you know, come into a greater discernment and testing, and that's the thing with the group as well, you know, like, am I crazy? Or, you know, that's what I feel like from the Lord. And, you know, you can get prayer into that as well. So,
That put a little fear in
yeah, yeah.
That's really important what you just said.
Mhm.
That trust.
Yeah. Because it's in every area of our lives.
God's going to keep
Mhm.
things through this.
Absolutely. And it might not, God might not be telling, you know, you to invest in the stock market. And by all means, you know, he's got other, but if he is, you know, be open to whatever he wants to use. And yeah, there you go. He hears you. All right. So, and that's the thing about, okay, overbought, oversold, unrealized versus realized losses and gains. So basically, you know, if you invest in a company, it has a great outlook for, you know, say the next year to 2 years. And after you buy it, it goes down, you know, 10, 15%. If you're sure, you know, if you're pretty sure, whether it's God telling you or feeling led, it's got a good future, you know, you're not going to lose the money until you actually sell it. So that's another thing. Just stay calm. And a lot of people, that's part of why they use a money manager, because they don't have to see it every day, the ups and downs and that kind of thing. All right. And then, of course, timing, like Gideon was saying, is one of the most crucial things. So that's another thing we can hear from the Lord about, is when to buy and sell. Like I was saying, sometimes the best time to buy is when something plummets, you know, but it's got a good overall outlook for the long term, because the markets are cyclical. You know, they go up and down. Even good stocks go down. And there's 4 stages to the market cycle. The accumulation phase is an accumulation occurs after the market has bottomed out, and the innovators and early adopters begin to buy, figuring the worst is over. So it just kind of, it starts just fairly flat up and down. And then the market phase is when there's an uptick, and this occurs when the market has been stable for a while and moves higher in price, which we have been in a overall pretty consistent upward trend for the last 3-4 years. It's been quite a ride. I mean, there's been dips in last year, last March, there's a pretty good downtick with the whole COVID thing. But really, last year, after that, starting in April or so, through now, it's just we're at an all-time highs for a lot of the index, which an index is basically a pool of They have the S&P 500. They have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the top 30. The NASDAQ is tech. They have baskets that are kind of indicators of where the market is at a whole. And then there's the distribution phase. After it goes up, it kind of starts to level out a bit, and sellers begin to dominate as the stock price reaches its peak. Overall, it's overbought, so people see that it needs to consolidate some. And then there's a consolidation or a downward trend when the stock price starts, and usually those are pretty sharp. It can accumulate for months or weeks, months, and then the downward tick can happen pretty quick, depending on what the stock is and how volatile it is. And so another thing about a strategy is to, and I think like Brad was talking about, asking the Lord when to sell. And if you got into something that keeps going down and maybe it's time to cut your losses, you generally want to have an exit plan whenever you buy something. Okay, what would I be happy at? And like a mutual fund, you just kind of let it go because people are taking care of it and they'll adjust the portfolio. But if you're doing on your own, okay, do I see the stock being good for the next month, the next year, the next 5 years, and at what price am I? Yeah.
So you can put a put on it, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I forgot what the other one is.
I put.
So that if it drops $3 a share, and you're not comfortable, because then you won't lose any more than that as long as it doesn't get hammered.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's options that are basically, we'll talk about options next week, but you can situate yourself. If there is a downward turn, you can make money on it. If you're getting that from the Lord. Well,
I mean just to keep from losing more.
oh, okay. Like
So
own the shares and then.
$4, and so you have it, if it drops down a certain amount,
Mm-hmm.
that it'll automatically sell. I mean, because if you've talked about it,
Uh-huh.
and you say, okay, this is our plan,
Yeah.
and have a plan going in also.
Yeah. I think it's like a limit sell.
Yeah.
So you can set it up on your account where, say you bought some at 10, it's gone up to 15, and you can set it to where it'll sell at 13 or 14 because they do fluctuate. You might think it'll go to 20, but you don't want to lose all your profit if it fluctuates. So you can set it to sell at 14 or wherever you're comfortable at. So yeah, that's kind of a safeguard to, and then vice versa. You can have it set to sell at a certain height too if you want. So yeah, just looking at your investment goals. A lot of people invest for retirement or income. So you kind of want to look at the length of am I wanting to invest for a year? Am I wanting to invest for 20 years? And kind of adjust your risk tolerance accordingly. If you're wanting to invest, generally, if you're wanting to invest for a longer time, you kind of want lower risk. But if you're willing to see what happens in a year, and that's really this group, it's really, I'm feeling spirit-led, whatever God's saying.
He says to risk it all, you risk it all.
Yeah. And the other thing is one of the other things is called a price driver for what causes fluctuations in a stock company. They're called drivers. There's like news. There could be management changes, mergers, regulations, interest rates. If the Fed talks about the possibility of interest rates going up, there can be a consolidation where people sell stock because they're afraid, because the stock market and interest rates are generally inversely related. Because if the cost of capital is higher, it makes companies less profitable. So part of why the market's been doing so well this last year, especially interest rates have been like all-time lows. So it really lends for expansion in business and profitability. And then the last thing I have here is just about target price and technical analysis, which we'll probably go more in depth maybe in the next week or two about how you come up with those numbers. But I thought this would just be a good kind of intro, see where people are at and what they're interested in being involved with. If they want to, go after some of the more technical stuff, we just want to focus more on prayer. But yeah, I want people to feel comfortable if they are interested in getting involved, be able to ask questions if they want to get set up on a like Robinhood or some sort of platform, if they want help getting walked through the process, just to be available to help people feel comfortable, and just be a community, and we can have discussions about stuff. God's putting it on your heart. So, are there any questions or thoughts? Yeah.
I know we've kind of talked about this, but I know when I get together with my stepson, Dottie's son, very intelligent with stocks, and he's made money, and he's been blessed with it. But he'll talk about a particular stock and just share, and he does a lot of research. So that's what he does. That's what we do is we'll talk, and then he'll go, wow, this looks good. And of course he doesn't say, thus saith the Lord, buy, but he says, gives his opinion.
His 2 cents, yeah.
His research. So talk about, different stocks, and he's been right, huh?
Wow.
We haven't always taken his advice,
No,
and
we
we've
haven't.
snorked for it too.
Selling when I shouldn't have, and now it's up to $80-some a share, and I bought it at like $7.
Yeah.
And I sold it
10
'cause I
times.
needed the money, and I sold it when I shouldn't have.
Did you actually seal it with a press?
Probably not. I don't even remember now, but
Because we're learning that.
yeah.
When we have God in all things.
Yeah,
Changes things.
absolutely.
And I think most of it is because of not really understanding how it all works, and that's why, even though I really probably grasped a little bit of this tonight, it's like something you have to just keep looking at.
Yeah.
It's just like learning anything else. And so I want to learn the language.
Yeah.
You don't even know the language at the beginning. It's just like,
And I went to college for this, and it was all books, and then if you don't use it, and if you really don't applicate it,
takes a while for me to comprehend something, and I'm not really a numbers person, so it takes me longer probably than anybody else.
which I think for this group really, where you're at is fine. If you're getting stuff from the Lord, is really the most important thing. And this is just kind of a foundational stuff, but
And that stock that I messed up on was AMC.
AMD, I think. Yeah, AMD.
AMD.
My friend got a word from the Lord on that.
Wow.
So I should have just kept that.
He dumped all his inheritance into it. And he was kind of fretting when it dropped down to, what did it drop down to 38 from 58, I think.
Now it's 80-something.
But he held on to it.
All right.
He sold part of it and he held the rest of it. And it's like, he tried to talk me to buying it at 59, but I actually didn't have free money at the time.
Yeah.
Now I have a little bit of free money, and that time is gone.
Yeah, I think it's $82 now or 83.
I would like to say something, though.
Yeah.
Hold on to the mic.
Oh, everybody can hear me. I'm loud.
But the YouTube can.
Oh. The one thing, penny stocks, which some of the cryptocurrencies, like you're talking about, are in penny stocks. Now, Bitcoin has made it big time now. Hedge funds can buy Bitcoin. All right? They can't buy the penny stocks, the small cryptocurrencies, so that you don't have them bumping an inflated price up and then dumping it back on you. I mean, I know somebody that worked for Walmart. Walmart would take huge blocks of stock and dump them on the market. And of course, it was actually a large enough amount that they owned that the price would drop.
Oh, yeah.
And they would go right back in and buy it all back up.
Yeah.
So, and this is what the hedge funds do.
Yeah.
it's a manipulation of the market,
Yeah.
and that's what they got caught on, was doing that basic
And that's another
principle.
thing that part of this group is to pray for justice in those areas.
Yes.
Because the SEC really, they're in bed with these big funds, and they're bought. So they're not really. They'll have regulations on paper, and it'll be maybe a $250,000 fine when they're making hundreds of millions of dollars off of what they're doing. So it's really unjust. And then the small guys getting left with the So yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know much about investing in stocks, but I was assuming that before you can have stocks to buy, a company has to go, I guess they call it going public. And I guess there could be a place in maybe knowing ahead of time what company is doing well that hasn't gone public and having an eye on that. I don't know if that would be a strategy.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, you can have, there's like Market Watch, and that's, half of investing, especially, if you're a typical like day trader or someone that's really into it, is watching for all these news, whatever, IPO. They'll have an announcement like a month or two prior to a company going public, and like this Coinbase that is probably the best for buying cryptocurrency on, just went public yesterday. And so that's kind of a thing, because sometimes once they go public, there can be a real opportunity for a growth. But other times, like yesterday, if they come out at overvalued, they're trying to sell it at a high price. I think it started at $310 a share, and then it went all the way up to $430, and people bought at that, and now it dropped $100. And so it can be a little bit risky because you don't really have a gauge of the history of a stock. Like, that's part of the info you take in for technical analysis. What's the trajectory? What's the history of it? And so if it's new on the market, it can, if it looks like it's undervalued of what they're coming out at, it could be an opportunity. And again, if you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, if the Lord's really highlighting something, by all means, ask him, and should I put, how much I should put into that. But I generally wait for the dust to settle, maybe even a few days, to kind of see where it's going to rest at. Because it could shoot up, but other times it plummets because they can be a little greedy, trying to get as much as they can. Like I know Coinbase gave all of its 1,700 employees $25,000 worth of stock right before they went public. So that's going to kind of mess with the value. But yeah. But they're valued at $65 billion. So what's $25 million out of that? Or whatever, $50 million out of that. So yeah.
And most of them are valued at 40 or 50 times value anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at future value. They're not looking at actually what it's worth.
Yeah. Price to earnings.
Make sure that you look at something, make sure that they're on solid ground.
Mm-hmm.
A big cash base also.
Yep. And they're not, their assets are bigger than their liabilities. They're not upside down.
They can afford to take a hit.
Yeah, they're not over leveraged, not too much debt. There's one ratio they look at as price to earnings. So say something's, it's a good way to explain this. So if they've earned $1 million, and there's 1 million shares outstanding, and the share value is $15, so that would put it at a 15-to-1 P/E. So it's 15 times annual earnings, and you kind of look at what the different sectors, because like tech can have a higher P/E on average, what the different companies, and then other sectors have a lower. It's just like projected growth and that kind of thing, which can affect that. But so,
I had MF Global.
oh wow.
Not only could I not invest it in other things, even though I had it sitting and I pulled it and put it in a cash form, I didn't get it back either.
Wow.
Most of it.
Yeah. So it's nice to be in control,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for coming. I hope this was worth your time, and pray about, if God wants you to be involved and, in what way. And yeah, we'll plan on meeting next Thursday. I think 5:30 would probably work better because Brad has an engagement at 6:30, so that's why they had to go early. But yeah, just be praying this week and see if God's given you anything. If He's wanting, if you're feeling God directing you to jump on board in whatever way, and also if He's given you ask for dreams or to highlight stocks or any of those kind of things, and we'll see what we. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
gold, silver, whatever.
Someone said that oil should be going up because it's down now or something like that.
Because
Something about oil.
because they blocked. He's blocked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Mr.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I have a real question.
yeah.
So,
So your other questions weren't.
is, yeah, yeah, can I be frank and honest? Is there a certain publication or website or something that we can look at for the beginner to just see I don't know, what am I trying to say? See the different stocks and, kind of
So
thing?
yeah, so like if you get Robinhood on your phone, they have different categories. They have like the top movers, and then you can add different stocks to your watch list, which is great. If anybody's interested in getting Robinhood and you don't know how, you can see me afterwards, and if I send you a link, then we both get a free stock. So just it's usually worth like $3, $4, or $5, but.
Didn't you say something about? I wrote it down. Weasel. Or
Webull. Webull's another one, and that one they have paper trading on Webull, so you can play around with it without investing any money.
Called Weeble?
My nephew Bruce and his wife, they actually took the class from the guy here, and they started out with $5,000 a piece doing this.
Paper trading.
Right.
Hmm.
And they almost lost everything a few times, but at the end of the year, they both had over $1 million.
Wow.
That's encouraging. That's worth the drive.
But no, it's Weevil, it's paper trading.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they were comfortable losing the money,
Hmm.
and so they were willing to actually look at the way things were going in the they did it on commodities.
Hmm. Hmm.
She did it on the Asian market. She stayed up all night. He did it on the day market here. So, I mean, I know that there's patterns and stuff, and it's like you said, oil would be one. You're looking at it. I mean,
What's a trend?
certain things
Regulations.
coming in. Fuel oil's going to go up.
Yeah. They had that tanker blockage a few weeks back in one of the straits, and yeah.
About water, I mean, biblically speaking, there's quite a bit in the Bible about just, the cost of waters. And so, and then there's about utilities.
Uh huh.
Would utilities be something that we should be paying attention to because of the situation, in the world?
Yeah.
In regards to, that, like everything's going solar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of batteries, the lithium battery thing is really getting to be a big deal. And they say like the silver price is going up because of all the solar. They have to have silver to do the solar.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just understanding that. So the only way you understand it is just keep watching and reading and watching.
Yeah, and just like the computer chips that Brad was talking about using to mine all this cryptocurrency, there's a shortage because it's lucrative to mine, and so different like AMD has been going up because they produce
They're actually a better chip than Intel.
yeah.
So what about
So I think it'd be great
blockchain?
blockchain.
Is that
Blockchain
crypto?
is the way to the future.
Yeah.
MasterCard is going all blockchain. They've got like 17 patents already. They're changing everything over to it. So I mean, if you have MasterCard, then you have a share of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So that's like investing in crypto. And then there's other stocks that companies are invested in either mining or they utilize cryptocurrency. And so that's a way you can invest in the stocks. Like there's Riot and this Coinbase just came out, which would probably be a good one to keep your eye on. It might be a little high now, but I think it'd be great to write a list, and maybe next week, I think it'd be cool, sit around and we can discuss things and we can pull it up on our phones or whatever and really dive into, okay, what's this looking like? And yeah, and then we can write ideas down and we can test them out. Yeah.
Okay, so for me,
Mm-hmm.
this is my plan, because this is what I've heard. Find out the why, ask questions, no preconceived ideas, listen, be spirit-led, exit plan, be spirit-led, the trust journey, and prayer. You know, for me, whatever I do in my life at this time, it's too late for me to go the old way.
Yeah.
It's gotta be God-led.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. You know, it has to be God-led. And I don't, that has to be the biggest part of the equation. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're ready for the transference of the wealth from the wicked to the righteous. So,
and I think that this is part of it, because
mm-hmm.
we do have to do our part.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, we can't sit at
Put
home.
ourselves in a position to receive. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to do something, and you know what? There's always places for money to go. I mean, as far as supporting Christianity,
Yeah.
whether it's
That's a factoid, no?
you know, how many times would you like to stop and give somebody $100?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a huge tool. And yeah. So yeah, I guess it'd be good just to keep a journal of anything you're getting, and for a start, and then we could talk about it next week and maybe dive in. I don't know if you guys, if you have a laptop, maybe bring that. You can also do it on your phone. Maybe we'll get together and dive into some research as well, and just kind of throw some ideas out there and just have discussion. So, anything else? Yeah, of course. Yeah. Good. I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. Be blessed. Love you guys.